Hello and welcome, and I want to talk about an interesting hand that was recently played in the World Series of Poker main event with 10 players remaining in the tournament. At the time, the blinds were 300,000 and 600,000 with a $100,000 ante. Three players were involved in this hand. It worked out to be that of a not close to a double knockout, but technically a single knockout. Under the gun, or the first player to act out of 10 people, Mignon. I haven't watched any of the tournament. I'm just going over the numbers and the situation as shown on here. He started the hand off with 43.2 million in chips, which represented 11% of the chips in play. The average player with 10 people left would own 10% of the chips. And when it goes down to 9, well, 1 divided by 9 is 11.1, so the chip average on the next elimination will be thus 11% of the overall stack. So therefore, first hand, you're really not going to play too many hands, but when you're dealt pocket aces, you play them anywhere. And comes in with a raise of 2.5x, raising it to 1.5 million from the 600,000. After that, the next three players fold under the gun plus 5, Labat, or Labat anyway, with 51.3 million in chips. Has 13% of the chips in play, only calls with kings, and that's something I would do about 0% of the time. And I would fold about 0% of the time in this spot as well. I think you always have to get a raise under the situation, and that would bring it down. I would raise it up to about 4 million. But of course that wasn't the case. It kind of worked out for him to a degree because you got the same information that you would normally get with 4 with what the next player, Zoo, ended up doing at 24.7 million, and only 6.3% of the stack is a short stack. Thus needs to get a double up just to be around the chip average mark. And having pocket kings as well, facing a raise and a call, there's only one play you have in this spot, and that is to go all in, as the pot would be worth well over 4 million at this time. You got 24.7. I don't really want to raise it to 4, although technically you could, but kings isn't a hand I'd be looking to lay down in this spot, not when I'm playing only that of about 40 big blinds, which is still a reasonable amount to have. So then, after the all-in by Zoo, the person who had the under the gun to begin with comes back over the top with a 4-bet to that of all-in 43.2, and back to the bat who'd be back to be 49.8 million stack after the situation in here. So now the options here is the following. You call and you win, and you're going to have a monster stack over 100 million and 1/4 of the chips in play, thus a very large favorite for winning the tournament. If you call and lose, then you'll be down to about 8 million, and thus you'll be a very, very small stack, playing only about a dozen big blinds. And within such, the reason why I would normally raise it to about 4.5 million, 5 million, even 4, is because then it'll come back and I'll have Mignon, the original raiser, have to make another decision. And if something like an all-in play were to come in, then I would really need to know a lot about my opponent. This is something you may not get with 10 players left, as you were at 2 tables and they would have just split it down to 1. So you would know a few of those players, and this is where the tell games comes into play, because now you're at the point you either got aces or you don't. And then you think about the hands they could have. Would a player do that with pocket kings? And that's the very rare one, although in this case 2 kings were in place. Pocket queens and jacks, you know what? A lot of players may not even move queens in that facet, and even ace king becomes a situation. Would somebody really put a bet, realizing they're calling 24.7 and they're risking their entire stack on top of that, knowing that, hey, I'm very confident with the hand. For you're either at 100 plus million, 50 million, or 8 million. And 50 million is how much you would be on the fold. So therefore, if there's about a 60, 70% chance they got pocket aces, you got to lay it down. And here's why I look at 60% chance. You have aces, because that means 60 times I'm going to win 20%. And that means 40 times, knowing that ace king is more live than such, you're going to win 80%. So therefore, 20% on 60 would work out to be that of 12. 80% on 40 would be that of 32. So now you're looking at 44% chance of winning, which is not positive odds. But now we have a thing on the payout situation. And when I started playing poker and tournament poker well over 12 years ago, closer to 13 and 14 years ago, I calculated something that I entitled tournament odds. And this is for this exact situation where tournament odds states, what's my average payout right now as I stand? And then if I get to a certain situation, so at the start of the hand, if you have an average stack, then you're going to finish 10th, maybe 7.65% of the time. And you're going to be more likely to finish around 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th area with an average chip stack. And you're definitely very much in line for first place, but you're more so in line with a much higher stack, like 1/4 of the chips in place. So therefore, if you look at it coming in, you would say on average, maybe somewhere around, say, 2.3 million is what I'm going to take home long term with a little over a chip average. Maybe you could even go 2.7 or 2.8. Go 2.8. Now, if you end up winning that hand, then you'll be amongst one of the two chip leaders. There's somebody else that would also have 100 million chips as well. So you'd be amongst the two chip leaders. You'd probably be on average looking at around 3rd place. So you'd probably average take home would be somewhere around 3.6 million. And even if this is 2.6, maybe a million more. So you get an extra 1 million if you win the hand. Now, although in this situation, it's possible that the shorter stack would lose to the bigger stack, but if the big stack has pocket aces, and they both could have also had pocket aces, and that means that you are still in line to get the 0.85 score. But even if that person gets eliminated, the next lowest score is 1 million. And if you're amongst the shorter stack, well, you'd be projected to finish 9th. And long term, on an over-under, you'd be looking at about 7.5 as your predicted rate. Meaning, if I was to bet over-under, if you finish better than 7.5, that would be under, and worse would be over, and that would be an interesting line that I most likely would exist there. However, in a position where if you had well under the 10 million number, close to 8 million in chips, and thus only about a dozen big blinds, you'd probably be looking at about an average payout of about 1.5 million. So to me, as I look at this, is the pot odds within tournament odds is risking somewhere around $1 million to win about another $1 million. So if I'm very confident that that player has a very good chance of having aces, then I'm going to fold. Now, if I know this player well enough that I am very confident they're going to do it with queens and jacks or queens and ace king, then I would do it. But other than that, there would be no way that I could play the pocket kings in that position, and I would most certainly fold. Now, again, I would have raised it myself to about 4 to 5 million from the 1.5 2 bet. I would have 3 bet to such. But then when the person after me would raise all in and the other person played it, I would be so out. As I've been able to find out what the player would have. Now, I wouldn't just fold quickly. I would spend all the time that I could studying my opponent, looking for numerous amounts of tells. And with a lot of these players, unless they're having a difficult time on stamina, are pretty difficult to get this decent reads from, especially the ones that know what they're doing and are very good. And they have a strategy to just, no matter what they got, to be make it very difficult to discern tells. But when you know the player and you know that they're just very so incapable, or you can't see it that probable they'd be moving with queens or ace king in that spot, I'm now looking at anywhere between 60 to 100% chances that's aces, because in some cases, including myself, the all-in would only be aces. Because if I was in that position where I raised under the gun for that number, and I had somebody else call and I had somebody else raise all in which was done, and the action's back to me, and I go all in for, say, the chip stack of 43. If you know me, the range of hands that I would have in that spot would be one hand, and that would be pocket aces. Possibly pocket kings as well. But that's about as far as I take it. And when I'm holding pocket kings and I know someone's in a position for having aces or kings, then it's pretty much aces considering you got 2 kings yourself. Because there's 4 aces left in the deck compared to 2 kings left in the deck. And as I'm looking at this, I'm looking to win the tournament. Thus, folding still enables me that chance. One of my favorite tournament wins that I ever had was because when I started hand number 1 of a final table, I was dealt, it wasn't as good as kings, but it was ace king. And I came in with, I ended up folding it pre-flop. I was up against that of aces. I would have lost. And next thing you know, and I had a shorter stack at this. I was like, out of 9 people, I was like 7th, 8th, or 6th place. And I ended up saving that hand. And next thing you know, I ended up winning the tournament. Wasn't that big of a price. I probably won several hundred or 1,000. But it was still the idea that you're still in the tournament. And when you got 51 million or 50 million, thus with 600,000 big blinds, or 0.6, and you got 50 or 50, that means you got pretty close to that 100 big blind deep stack number, where it's extremely comfortable for me to play poker, as they would say, quote unquote, with 100 big blinds, 60, 70, 50, 40, 60 area. You can do a little bit of play. And then it becomes very difficult when you're at 25 and 30. And below 25, 20, you pretty much just want to go all in within the play. Pretty much, because it depends on the style of tournament, who you're playing, and which number. It's a big difference between having 20 big blinds and 12, and then again it's 6. But a deep stack nonetheless. And it sucks to lay kings down, but sometimes you just have to know when to do so. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. And oh yeah, by the way, if you came onto this channel because of you searched it via poker, this channel doesn't really talk much about it. I'll use it in reference quite frequently because what I like is that of advantage gambling, being an advantage player. I do not think poker is the best game in town. I think crypto trading is such, and for advantage play, it gives the best return on investment for just regular people who play games like this, trading the market, betting on sports, playing blackjack, so on and so forth. I've done it all. And right now I figure crypto trading is the way to go. So that's where I am at. But hey, poker is what got me going on understanding how to play bankroll management and how to play when you're winning, and thus adjust your stack accordingly. Your portfolio, when I say stack. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.